As we do every Friday at this time, it's time for the Stephen Jones Show here on your home of the Cowboys. And a good afternoon to you, sir. How the heck are you?
Good afternoon, guys. Ready to get back to playing some football. The right side of things.
Heading off to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. Let's talk about those guys here in a few, but I wanted to know from you with three players heading out this week with the trade and a couple of releases, is that the season? Could we see more of that coming up in the days ahead of the deadline?
I don't think so. I think we kind of made the moves that we were pleased with, and obviously the trade deadline's Tuesday. You got a few things in play, but overall, I think we did what we needed to do in our mind. From Coach McCarthy and Jerry and Will and felt like we did the right things there to help our team.
Stephen, we're on this show. We're really into the team building part of football, and so how much do you guys go into all the guys in your last year of a contract? For instance, in your secondary, Cheeto, Jordan Lewis, Xavier Woods, and listen to people calling and compare that to comp picks and talk about if we're going to extend these guys. How much of that is going on a daily basis?
There's a lot. I mean, goes into it. Are you going to get compensatories for those players? Do you want to? Obviously, in a lot of these cases, we still want to see these guys play. I mean, Tito's had a difficult year with injuries, and so that's an interesting one. And then Lewis, same thing. He's been banged up a little. So, all the guys are guys that we still want to see, and I think might have a future here. We just have to see how things go. And obviously, we've had our share of injuries, and we just got to continue to, go to work every day and practice and get better. And there's a lot of football left, so it's real important that we do that. And obviously, Everson Griffin's a good player. We ended up getting a pick for him, and that also allows us to, as we move forward, to really see Randy play more. Certainly, guys like Dorrance Armstrong and Anai are all guys that play in that role. So we just felt like that was the best thing for us at the time when you considered the cap savings and the young guys that we have there that are ready to get more snaps.
Hey, Stephen, this week it seemed like the players at practice were all excited about DiNucci. They were kind of rallying around him, talking about how well he was slinging the ball around. My question for you is, can you see that being a positive? I mean, how far can you go with that? And tell everybody about how you guys happened to pick him in the 7th round. Where did his name come from, and what you see with him?
Well, I think at the end of the day, you certainly like, his movement. He's a good athlete. He moves well. He's actually got 10-inch hands and get his hands around the ball good, and he can sling it from a lot of angles. Reminds me of, a little Romo-esque that way in terms of how he can release the ball from different angles. Mike had a little background of knowing him from there out of Pittsburgh and some things like that, and a little background with him, but really liked him. And Mike likes a guy with movement, a guy who can move around, and certainly, he does have a lot of gamer to him. I mean, he's been watching him all year with playing on the scout team, and he's really got a lot of things to work with. And, you never know till you get guys out there and give them a chance. Obviously, Dak was a 4th-round pick, and he got given an opportunity, and he ran with it. But, this is going to be a great opportunity for DiNucci. It's great we're getting Zach Martin back, which really should help shore up some of the offensive line issues that we have. And, we're fired up about playing this week. The guys had a good week of practice, had good energy, and I feel like they will rally around DiNucci.
Okay, so you bring it up, and I'm curious. I'm going to ask the optimistic question. If DiNucci has a great game and plays really well, how do you guys approach next week if Andy Dalton's cleared?
Well, Andy's our guy, and I feel like he made great progress here at the end of the week, and certainly it'll be his job when he gets back, but it's going to also be great to get to watch DiNucci get an opportunity here in terms of playing against Philadelphia. It doesn't get any bigger than that, a good divisional game. And let's see what he can go out there and do.
Speaking of that, one more DiNucci question. I don't want you to give your hand away, but do you think he'll be running close to what the typical Cowboys offense would run, or you think they're going to dumb it down a little bit because he's a rookie?
Well, we'll have to, to some degree, do some things that help him out and do what he does best. So I do think, we're going to give him, and Mike's great at that. Kellen will be great at that, giving him every opportunity to have success in what he's done and what he does well.
It's the Stephen Jones Show here on The Fan. We saw a report with the deadline next week. There's no way you guys will be trading Michael Gallup. Is that right?
No, Michael's on our team. See him having a bright future here in Dallas, and no interest in trading Michael.
Do you guys let the lack of success with the older players you signed in free agency like McCoy, Poe, Worley affect how you approach free agency next year?
We've always been conservative when it comes to free agency. We're big believers in you build through the draft, but you also, you want to fill some holes. That was the reason for signing all those guys, shore up some things so you don't have to necessarily reach in the draft. And, we'll continue to do that. All these guys are not necessarily, catastrophic cap hits if you look at the way their contracts were structured. So, I think, we'll continue to look at free agency the way we always have, which is, you want to shore up your needs before the draft, and you don't want to overextend. Certainly with the cap situation in the NFL, probably going to be very interesting, with having the COVID year and certainly having to look at what the cap's actually going to be. There's going to, a lot of teams are going to have challenges in terms of working around the cap, but we'll certainly look at what our situation is and, continue to look at it the same way. And, you're not always going to hit on everybody, but really felt like, we'll continue to operate and feel like the way we do it's a good way.
Do you guys feel like you were able to execute what Mike McCarthy talked about with player over scheme, and do you plan on that sort of being a philosophy moving forward?
It will be. It'll still be important that we get good football players first and foremost and then work the scheme around. I think there's no question, not having an off season certainly had its challenges with the new staff, in particular when you're trying to put in a new defensive scheme. So, those are all things that a lot of teams had to do with, but, we feel good about our staff, where we're headed, and Coach McCarthy, and, how we'll move forward in the future. But, we got a lot of football to play right now, and it's real important that we go to work each week and get better.
We heard Jerry this morning talking about how Zach Martin will be back at guard this week, so I would assume Terrence Steele will be at right tackle. Does the coaching staff like Steele as a player more than McGovern, or are you just hesitant to move people around?
Well, I just think, there's a little bit of everything that goes into it, and you said it. You start moving a lot of guys around, and, some more challenges. But, I do think there's a lot to like about Steele. He's got great length. He works really hard at it. Football is important to him, and at the same time, McGovern's coming fast. And so, I wouldn't necessarily say we like one more than the other. It's, probably at the end of the day, a little more of, a lot of moving parts you'd like to avoid. So we'll continue to monitor that situation. I thought McGovern improved each time he's gone in and play, and I think that'll continue to happen as it will with Steve.
It's Stephen Jones Show here on The Fan. How much could Sean Lee help with his coach on the field type of skills, tying that defense back together?
Well, anytime you have a player like Sean Lee, who's had a obviously great career, he's got a great understanding of the game. He is, one of the, big-time leaders we've ever had through the doors for the Cowboys organization. So he'll be a huge to have him around more. And I think he can really do a lot to help us there. But even more importantly than that, he's a hell of a football player. So it'll be great to have him back.
Steven, if you could pick one guy on your roster to have a great rest of the year and show really good progress and growth, who would you pick and why?
That's a good question. I'd like to think there's a handful of players that will continue to, grow as, as he goes. that's a hard one. I just think any of these young players, as they continue to get opportunities, you'll hope they would continue to develop, and whether that's defensive linemen, offensive linemen, obviously huge, big time injuries, offensive line. It'd be great to see some of these guys who were, supposed to be backups this year that are now finding themselves a lot of football to watch them develop. So, it's real hard to single out a particular player at this point. So, the bigger thing is just to have these young guys, as they get opportunities, take advantage of them and show us things so that, we feel comfortable going with players, these young guys in the future, and we don't have to go out and, play the game in free agency where you have to pay more money.
I couldn't help but thinking with all these young guys how much fun it would be if you hit a third unexpected home run at quarterback and Nooch turns into something.
Well, he's outstanding, obviously. We do feel good, though, that Andy's going to be back next week. Same time, DiNucci's got a really, I think, a good future for us. Mike's really fired up about working with us as we move forward. And, he's obviously one of those that fits that mold, young guy that you hope takes advantage of every opportunity he gets.
Hey, Stephen, talking about the game itself on Sunday night, besides the X's and the O's and the execution on the field and what might happen during the game, can you talk about what you expect the atmosphere to be like? Because in Philadelphia, as you know, they've always circled the calendar for the Dallas Cowboys. They basically have lifted this into their rivalry. It's like probably one of the best rivalries in the NFL right now, and it's because of the way the fans, in particular in Philadelphia, go nuts about playing against the Cowboys. They're going to let some fans in, but what kind of reception do you think it's going to be and how it might be different in a pandemic?
Well, it's just tough when you don't get to have many fans. I mean, we saw that last week in Washington. You get, you only have a handful of fans in there. It's different. Hats off to our group of fans. They really made, I think, a huge difference in terms of the atmosphere. It's even though it's 25,000 people, it's still a big difference, and a lot bigger difference when you're dealing with 25 versus 1 to 5,000. So, there's no question it's different when you walk in these great buildings, that, especially the NFC East buildings where there's great rivalries, and obviously the fans are over the top in terms of coming out strong for their team. So it will be interesting to see see what the atmosphere is like. I hadn't heard exactly the number of fans they're going to be able to have. I'm sure they have in there will make a lot of noise, and certainly I know the Eagles, as all NFC East games go, I know they'll be prepared. And, this thing, the East is up for grabs. It'll be a great competitive atmosphere in terms of our players going against one another.
How big of a challenge do you and the rest of the front office view getting the defense back to where you'd like it to be, whether that's through player acquisition or just execution?
Oh, I think, it's a challenge. Anything in this league's a challenge. It's very competitive, but at the same time, feel very good that we'll continue to make progress and get better with each week. And certainly as we move forward, I feel we can accomplish that. And it's going to be certainly interesting to see what strides we've made this week, and feel like hopefully we'll take some big steps there. And I like getting more opportunities to get in there and play. Certainly having Sean Lee back is going to be big, and Leighton getting another game under his belt. All these things are, I think, big positives for our football team.
Sounds great, Stephen. Give him heck up there. We'll be pulling for you.
Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.